Hey guys, Victor here, coming at you with another deck profile, and for today's video, we're going to be covering Bystial Tearlament, which is honestly a variant that you don't really see all that often, and it's for good reason, right? Because the way that the format currently is, it's basically just play a fire deck or lose, and with so many decks revolving around the fire attribute itself, that means cards like Bystials aren't really going to be as effective, but even so, it's still a really cool variant that I think offers like a lot of different avenues that you don't really get to see in normal Tearlament decks. And it does give you like a really good matchup into rogue decks as well, or just not even rogue, just like the lesser tiers, as it does give you favorable matchups with decks like Labyrinth, Ubel, Voiceless Voice, things of that nature, which are good, but not the best. So with that in mind, let's just jump straight into the deck profile. Now, as always, we're going to be starting off with the monster lineup first. So, of course, we're going to be playing 3 Tearlaments Reinoheart. So much of the deck pretty much goes through you having access to Reinoheart, just because on normal or special summon, it's able to foolish any Tearlament monster besides itself. So if you want to mill, you send Tear Cash. If you want to summon with like a fusion monster, you send any of your other 3. And then not only that, but it does also give you access to key cards in your extra deck, such as Bahamut Toad, which in turn gives you access to Toadally Awesome, and just having that little key negate can go a long way in just helping you win the game. So I definitely think 3 is the way to go. Then to accompany our 3 Reinohearts, we're playing 3 Tearlaments Kashtira. Much like Reinoheart, the deck does also revolve around you having access to Tear Cash as often as possible, just because it's one of like the main consistency pieces, as on normal or special summon, it mills 3 cards either from your deck or your opponent's deck, and then if it's sent to the graveyard by card effect, you get to mill 2 more cards. So yeah, this card just also solid, gotta play it at 3. And then for the 1 of Tearlaments, you're playing the 1 of Tearlaments merlli, the 1 of Tearlaments havnis, and the 1 Tearlaments Scheiren. They're going to be your fusion summoners. Not much needs to be said. If we could play more than one, we would, but we can't, so we won't. And then that's it for the tier package. I mean, that's basically all the tier monsters we could play, but yeah. As far as like the Bystial engine goes, we're going to be playing 3 Bystial Lubellions. So while we do play the branded Lost in order to like bring this card back and actually give it some like utility, we don't really care all too much about that. Like, it's nice if we can set it up, but it's not our ultimate goal. Bystial Lubellion's entire purpose is basically just to discard itself to add any of the level 6 Bystials, because we do play a couple of cards that we can take advantage of that do require level 6, such as like Beatrice, right? Beatrice is very important for this deck, because having access to Beatrice means you have access to pretty much anything that you want to accomplish during your turn and your opponent's turn. So yeah, 3 Bystial Lubellions for the consistency, and then to accompany our 3 Lubellions, we're playing the 1 magnamhut, the 1 Druiswurm, the 1 Saronir, and the 1 baldrake. I just chose one of each name instead of like 2 Druiswurm, 1 magnamhut, for example, just because I wanted to see, or not because I wanted to see them, but like, I mean, you obviously you do, but ideally you want to summon as many as possible just to get your entire engine going. So yeah, having one of each name is pretty important to accomplish that. And that's it for the Bystial monsters, and just like other good generic cards that we're playing 3 Destiny Hero Malicious. This is just to accompany our Bystials because it's a level 6, so it gives you access to Dangerous, which is also 1 card Beatrice. So, kind of a no-brainer. Then we're playing 2 King of the Swamp. So normally you'd see me playing Beast King of the Swamp, but because this deck has so many different types of monsters, I feel like King of the Swamp is just better in general. And then it also gives you access to cards like Guardian Chimera, which is honestly something that I've missed. But whether you're playing like Beast King or regular King of the Swamp, it honestly doesn't really matter too much. You're just trying to mill them. But because we're not playing Cross Sheep, I didn't really feel the need to play something like Beast King of the Swamps and bring it back, because we have no way to bring it back from the grave, right? So yeah, 2 King of the Swamp, perfectly fine. And then you have our shufflers in the form of Mudora and Keldo. And with that, that's the monster lineup, and now we can finally move on to the spell and trap portion. Now, when it comes to the spell and trap portion of the lineup, we're basically just playing as many consistency cards as possible, because let's face it, when it comes to Tearlament as a deck, a lot of the cards that we would like to play are either banned or limited, so we gotta make do with what we have. And fortunately for us, we still have 3 Primeval Planet Perlereino, which on activation is able to add 1 Tearlaments monster from your deck to your hand. On top of that, it also boosts all your tiers and fusions by 500 attack, and as if that wasn't good enough, when a tier monster gets shuffled back into the deck, you're able to pop 1 card on the field. So this card, it really does do everything. Then to accompany our 3 planets, we're playing 3 Tearlaments Scream. This is typically something that you want to pair with like our Reinoheart, and it's really important that we play 3 Scream, just because this is one of the cards that allows us to play during our turn and our opponent's turn, as when either player summons a monster while you control a face-up Tearlament monster, you're able to mill 3 cards and then for the rest of the turn, all your opponent's monsters lose 500 attack. So it's a consistency piece that can be played during both turns, essentially. That 500 attack matters a lot because it's going to ensure that your big guys don't get beaten over too easily, and it also allows you to OTK a lot more easily. And, it's just a really good card. It says mill 3, so of course we got to play it. And then as for the other effect, if you mill it or it's sent to the grave by card effect, you get to search for any Tearlament trap. So, whatever. And then for the final 3 of, we're just playing 3 Triple Tactics Talent. This is something that I'm always going back and forth on. Sometimes I want to play Droplet, sometimes I want to play Super Poly, but as of right now, I'm pretty much on the Talent train just because there are so many hand traps. And just being able to play something like Talents, whether you're going first or second, and just punish your opponent, is just invaluable. So, and all 3 of the effects are honestly really good as well. Whether you're taking an opponent's monster, drawing 2, or looping a card from your opponent's hand, each one can be game-winning in pretty much every scenario. Then for the 1 of spells, we're playing 1 Tearlaments Grief, 1 Foolish Burial Goods, and 1 Foolish Burial. All cards that basically do the exact same thing, as they give you access to potentially like some kind of tier play as soon as possible. And, just really good cards. And then for the other ones, since we're playing King of the Swamp, I was just to play 1 Polymerization, which is something that I have not showcased in a deck like this for a long time. But if you're playing King of the Swamp, you might as well play the 1 Poly. And then this does allow us to make the Guardian Chimera like I mentioned earlier. So yeah, you don't need more than that, but it's fine like that. And for the final spell, we're playing 1 Branded Regained. So while you don't always want to summon the Bystial Lubellion, it's nice to have the option. So I figured you might as well just play the 1 Regained, and it does do a lot of really cool stuff, right? Especially when it comes to cards like Destiny Hero Malicious, where you banish a malli, you special summon a malli, and then your Branded Regain will activate to put back 1 malli to the bottom of the deck, and you draw a card for free. So it's basically like Destiny Hero Denier, where you get to continuously recycle your resources. And then if for some reason your opponent decides to like normal or special summon, because right, who wants to normal or special summon in this game? You get to bring back a Bystial from your graveyard for free. And cards like Druiswurm or Baldrake can go a long way, just helping you win the game pretty easily. So just a really solid card. And that's it for the spells. And then for the traps, we just played the generic 2 sulliek with the 1 Trivikarma. Sulliek negates monsters, searches cards. Trivikarma searches for any tier spell and trap. And with that, that's the main deck, 40 cards like always, and now we can finally move on to the extra deck. Now when it comes to the extra deck, we're going to be starting off with the Link monsters first, just because I don't really play too many in most builds. I don't really like them. I prefer focusing more on like Exceeds, Synchros, or Fusions, but even so, they're still really good at what they do. So as a result, we're playing the 1 IP Masquerena, whose only goal is to link summon SP Little Knight during our opponent's turn. And SP Little Knight, broken card, banishes a card on summon when you use an extra deck monster for material, which since you're summoning with IP Masquerena is always going to happen. And that 1 banish can sometimes just straight up win the game on its own. And then its other effect is also really solid as well, where if your opponent activates a card or effect, you can chain your SP Little Knight to banish 2 monsters on the field, with one of them having to be from your field. So yeah, just a solid card. And then for the final Link monster, just 1 Apollousa Bow the Goddess. You don't really make Link 4s all too much in this specific version, but it's still nice to have the option because there are certain scenarios where your board is just clogged with monsters, so you have to do something to be able to get rid of them. And Apollousa is probably just like the best one because, negating monsters is always a good time for you. And then for the Exceed monsters, we're playing the 1 Totally Awesome Omni Negate that can take whatever it destroys. And then, as if that wasn't good enough, when it's sent to the graveyard, you're able to add any water monster from your grave to your hand. And we play some pretty good ones in the form of Tearlaments Kashtira and Reinoheart. So it just pretty much sets you up for your next turn to hopefully win the game. And the way that you're summoning this is through your Bahamut Shark, as it takes 2 water monsters, which is why we played 3 Reinoheart. Even though we don't play Beast King of the Swamp, it's perfectly fine because Reinoheart can pretty much always make Mudragon whenever you need to. And it's still really incredibly easy. So yeah, Bahamut Shark, good. And then for the other rank 4, we're just playing 1 Time Thief Redoer. I still really like it just because it allows you to take your opponent's key resources, and then it gets additional effects depending on the material. This is also like another fantastic way to get cards like Scheiren into the graveyard by card effect when you summon it, in order to fusion summon a lot more easily. And the utility that Time Thief Redoer offers you is just invaluable. And then for the other Exceeds, we're playing 1 Pilgrim Reaper still. This is our Kelpic and Agudo at home. It just takes 2 level 6 monsters, and then you can build the top 5 cards of both players' deck. The attack boost literally does not matter because we're pretty much immediately linking this card off every single time. But, it gains 200 attack for every dark monster in either player's graveyard, so maybe it'll come up. Sometimes it does, but in this format with how fire dependent it is, I really doubt it. And then for the God card, Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal, literally gives you access to whatever you want. it's really that good. And that's it for the Exceed monsters. You don't need to play cards like Typhon or Zeus or anything like that, just because the game is usually over before the time that those cards can come out. So yeah, they're just not needed. And then for the fusions, we're still playing the one Destiny Hero Dangerous. This is another fusion level 6 monster that we can use to get instant access to Beatrice. And then on top of that, it discards a card too to full Shadi heroes. So it helps you get rid of bricks in your hand like Trivikarma or the Shufflers, or even something like King of the Swamp, right? So yeah, just a really solid card that gives you instant access to Beatrice, which is always going to be considered the god card in this deck. And then you have the one Mudragon of the Swamp, the one Garura Wings of Resonant Life, and the one Predaplant Dragos Tapelia, which are commonly referred to as Super Poly targets, even though we don't play Super Poly in the main deck. We still got to include them because they're very easy to make in this deck, and you're constantly going through like your extra deck, so being able to just recycle these cards into one another is just invaluable. Then you have the one Tearlaments Reinoheart, which we can make basically just through King of the Swamp, as it's an okay card. It's basically just there to fight against like Nibiru, but if you want, I'd probably recommend Grapha over this in a lot of situations, just because Grapha is a lot more versatile with what it can stop. But even so, I love Reinoheart, so we got to play the one. And then you have the one Kaleidoheart, who just does everything, you know, on summon, whether it's fusion summoned or summoned back from the graveyard. It's able to shuffle a card on the field back into the deck on your opponent's side. When it's destroyed by card effect, you're able to send any tier card from your deck to the graveyard to reborn it. And, you know, it's just a very big nuisance. And by the time Kaleidoheart comes out, you've probably won the game at that point. And then for the final monster, just the one Guardian Chimera to go with our Polymerization and King of the Swamp plays. It's still a really good card, you know, just because being able to non-target destroy, draw cards. If you have Poly in the grave, which you will because that's how you summon this, they can't target it with cards like Imperm or Baylor, so it's just a really irritating card for them to deal with. And with that, that's the Bystial Tearlament deck. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya!